You're not broken. You're just hiding. Let's talk about the 3 Ps of imposter syndrome. Because there may be times that you were like, okay, I'm going to do it Monday, but 3 Mondays have passed and you still haven't done it. Or maybe you're writing an email and you have read it, double checked it, redone it, sent it to AI, come back, and you still don't know if it's the right email to send. That is some of what happens when you're dealing with the 3 Ps: perfectionism, people pleasing, and procrastination. I call them the 3 Ps of imposter syndrome because I have coached people around those 3 Ps, and I have also experienced those 3 Ps. So we're going to take some time and talk about those 3 Ps today. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a tool that you can use to help you move through that with ease and grace. My name is Tawana. Some people call me Coach T. And welcome to Heal on Purpose. This is where we name it, we shift it, and then we release it with a tool that's practical. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I've spent 30 years in corporate America. I recently retired last year. Yes, at 58, I am retired. And part of my journey through most of this half of my life has been saying yes way more than I said no. I said yes, yes, yes to other people. And it took me a minute to shift that and start saying yes to me first. So it's been a process for me, this whole thing of imposter syndrome, and I've learned a lot. And Ian Van Zant says you teach what you learn. So let me start off with a quick story. We all know Will Smith. He had what I'm going to call a living room moment. Okay, we all know Will Smith as the rapper, but many years ago, he almost let procrastination and perfectionism get in the way of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And it was because he was stuck in 2 of the 3 Ps. So we all know Jazzy Jeff and Will Smith. They had won the first ever Grammy for Best Rap Performance. And then, he had this total success. And then it ended up that the IRS said that he owed $2.8 million in taxes. They took his cars, his house, his motorcycle, everything. And so he really was at a place where he didn't know what to do. So what he started doing was going backstage at the Arsenio Hall show because he knew that he needed to put himself in an environment for somebody who could change his life. Okay, so that's a whole nother episode of you got to go to where the people are who can change you and help get you to where you need to be. But I digress. So at the backstage of the Arsenio Hall, he meets a guy named Benny Medina. Benny Medina says that he is working with Quincy Jones to do the sitcom. And Quincy ends up inviting Will to a birthday party that he was having. So Will comes in and Quincy talks to Will and he says, hey, man, they were talking about the sitcom. And Quincy says, hey, man, everybody who can decide if this sitcom is a go is in the living room. I need you to read this script and let's have a quick audition. And Will was like, oh man, hold on. No, I've never acted before. I've never read a script. I don't know how to do it. Give me some time. Give me a week. And Quincy said, give you a week? Will said yes. And then I'll be more prepared. Quincy said, but in a week, the NBC CEO won't be able to make it. So then it'll be pushed out 2 weeks. And Will was like, oh yeah, 2 weeks will be fine. And then Quincy was like, oh, but then 2 weeks from that, the other decision maker won't be able to make it. So then Will starts to get the point. Quincy says, but everybody who can make this decision about this sitcom is in that room right now, waiting for you to audition. So Will says, man, okay, give me 10 minutes. So Will takes that 10 minutes. He reads over the script. He goes into the living room, totally slam dunks the audition, And we know what happened after that. I think The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was on 6 seasons. Here's a fun fact. Will Smith wrote the theme song to The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, he wrote that song. In West Philadelphia, born and raised. Everybody knows the word. I won't bore you with me singing it, but everybody knows the words to that theme song. And that changed his life. Will Smith made the choice, because it is a choice, to get out of his own way and do something that he'd never done before, but that he had everything within him to do. He can read, he has the charisma, he speaks well, all of the things that you need to go through an audition. He made a choice. And so I want to ask you, have you had a living room moment where it was take the chance or not, do or die, live or stay in your comfort zone? And did you take it? I want to hear in the comments, have you had a living room moment and how did you handle it? So he was kind of dealing with perfectionism and people pleasing all at the same time. One of the interesting things that happened is that because of how Quincy Jones is, Quincy immediately sends for lawyers to come. I don't know what time it was, late in the morning, and draw up the contract so that they could sign the paperwork. He got Will, his own lawyer, just so everything could be clear. They signed the paperwork, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air started recording 2 weeks after that. So let's talk a little bit about the first P, perfectionism. I know a lot about perfectionism. I'm telling you, it's been one of the things that I have been unraveling forever, okay? And what I learned to realize is that it's not a flaw. Really, it's about me feeling safe. So let me tell you an example. So years ago, I owned a paint and sip in downtown Indianapolis. It was called Mimosa and a Masterpiece. I absolutely loved it. And I had made a decision that I wanted to tread lightly on Mother Earth, which meant that I would use more reusable items and less disposable items. So we had acrylic palettes. I used glasses instead of paper cups, and we used cloth napkins. What that meant is that every week I would take these cloth napkins home. I would wash them, dry them, iron each one, and perfectly fold it because I wanted it to be perfect. So as we got busier and more successful, it would take me sometimes 2 to 3 hours to iron each one of those cloth napkins individually. And I had a friend, and she said, "Tawana, Mimosa and a Masterpiece is very successful. Not once have I heard somebody say the cloth napkins are perfectly ironed." And I was like, wow. That totally changed my perspective because I thought being perfect meant that I would be safe. People would think I was prepared. People would know that I cared. And really, that was not that didn't have anything to do with people pleasing. I'm sorry, with the perfectionism that I was experiencing. It had to do with me wanting things to look a certain way. So I can remember I took a personal development class with Iyanla Van Zant. And, I was telling her, I don't know what we were talking about, but I was like, well, I'm a perfectionist. Because, perfectionist sounds very cute and clever. And one of the things that she said was that, well, that means you're controlling. And I was like, she's like, yeah, you're trying to control and navigate everything so that it looks a certain way. And I was like, as soon as she said it, I knew it was true. because if those napkins were not perfectly folded and ironed, I took it almost as like a personal attack. And so I would, even if I was out of town, I would try to, if my manager was there, I would try to like pre-iron all of them so that she'd have enough so that I would know. I mean, it was a total fiasco of everything that I was doing so that that business could look perfect. And nobody even noticed the napkins. Nobody even noticed. That was the thing that got me. Now let's shift a bit and talk about people pleasing. This second P was, you might think that you're being kind, but really it's not that. Really it's fear-based because you don't think that you are enough just by being who you are. You think that you have to give all of yourself away in order for you to be liked, loved, or cared for. I mean, there was a time when I was in my 20s and 30s where no matter what you asked me to do, I would do it. You need a ride home. You need some money. You need me to pay your bill. You need me to take you to work. You need to borrow my car. You need to, whatever it was, I would say yes because I was scared to death that if I said no, you wouldn't like me, or you would be mad at me, or you wouldn't want to be my friend. So I said yes to way too many projects, way too many favors. I took way too many risks because I was scared that I wouldn't be liked or loved. And really, what that does is it builds your friendships and relationships on dishonesty because I was doing things that I really didn't want to do. And other people thought that I really wanted to do them when I did not. And then I didn't feel worthy enough to ask them for support or help if I needed. It was a total mess. Okay. It was a total mess. And I had to learn what I liked because for years I had been liking what everybody else liked. Let's move into the last P, procrastination. So some people think that procrastination is laziness. Actually, it's dread. It's like you are so stuck in fear because you think that if you do it, it's going to be wrong. You think that if you try it and it doesn't work, nobody's going to give you any grace. And so let's take this video that you're watching. This video that you're watching was supposed to be done in January of this year. The new year, I was like, okay, here we go. We're going to do long form. We're going to get back in there. We're going to do it. And then I was like, okay, March, here we go. It's spring. We're going to do it. And then I was like, June 1st, it's the half of the year. I'm going to be ready. And then I signed up to attend the podcast summit. So I was like, okay, as soon as I get back from the podcast summit, the Thursday, July the 9th, I'm going to record my first episode and upload it by 7:00. Well, it is now 8:01 on Thursday, July the 9th, and I am still recording. But here's the thing about procrastination that I have learned. It really is about me keeping the promises that I make to me. I made a promise that I was going to upload this episode on July the 9th. It's going to be later than what I had promised. But part of me trusting myself is keeping the promise, and I'm going to do that. Okay. Now, what happens when you don't keep the promises that you make to yourself because you're like, nope, not yet. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next year. You end up being in the same place, and then you judge yourself harshly for that. So let me tell you something about Maya Angelou. You know Maya Angelou. She had written dozens of books, but even after all of the prizes that she had received and everything, she felt like people would eventually find out that she did not know what she was doing. Can you believe that? Maya Angelou. She felt like she still needed to provide proof to people that she was worthy to be this writer that we all knew and loved her for being. So don't think that this challenge that you might be having with imposter syndrome, people pleasing, procrastination, perfectionism, this is not just specific for you. One of the reasons why I'm so excited to talk about imposter syndrome is because all of the examples that I am going to be telling you about over these next few episodes, these next few weeks and months, about people who you know who are at the highest level of their game. Then they try something new. They stretch a little bit farther and they don't feel so confident. Imposter syndrome sets in. Today, it was about Will Smith. We already know Will Smith, rapper, sitcom, blockbuster movie. But there are times where when he was taking the next new step, he questioned himself. So know that if you are at that point where you might be experiencing imposter syndrome, you're in the right place, because that is saying you're moving out of your comfort zone. You're trying new things. And nobody is expecting you to perform flawlessly if this is your first performance. What it takes is a willingness to do something new and a courage to step through with the steps. So let's talk about a tool that you can use. So I call this the 3P checkpoint. So these are 3 questions that you can ask yourself because you have to be aware before you can make the change. And so you can't rewire a pattern if you are not aware of the pattern. So the next time you feel some resistance or hesitancy or somebody's asking you to do something and you don't quite feel ready, ask yourself this. Am I redoing this because it's actually wrong or because it doesn't feel perfect? If it's the second one, that could be perfectionism talking. The second question, am I saying yes because I want to or because I'm afraid of the reaction if I say no? If it's fear out of the reaction, that is people pleasing talking. And the last one, am I waiting because I'm not ready or because starting feels scarier than waiting? If it feels scary, that could be procrastination talking. Now listen, you don't have to deal with all 3 of these at the same time. You just want to have an awareness. You just want to be aware of what you're feeling when it comes up, because that is going to allow the foundation for you to shift that. So here is what I need you to do. If you saw yourself in any one of these stories, any one of the P's that we talked about today, know that you are in the right place and we are going to be dealing with that every week. So subscribe and tell me in the comments, which P did you see yourself in? Was it perfectionism, people pleasing, procrastination? I read every comment and I respond to everyone. So see you back next week. And until then, get out of your comfort zone.